So in my book, High Conflict, I follow people and communities who were stuck in really ugly high conflict of all kinds, personal, political, you name it. And in every single case, there were certain tripwires that led them into this kind of dysfunctional conflict. And they're always the same tripwires, no matter if it was gang violence or an ugly divorce. The tripwires include binary thinking, where you believe there is an us and a them. It's very hard to resist this. The more uncertain and scary things get in the world, the more we as humans are drawn to simple dichotomies, right? Where it's black versus white, good versus evil, us versus them. That is a very evolutionarily appropriate response and a totally inappropriate and destructive response for the modern age. So it is an instinct we have that doesn't serve us very well today when we live in interdependent, diverse democracies. Everyone that I followed for High Conflict at some point reached what's known as a saturation point, which is kind of like hitting rock bottom, right? Where something happens where you suddenly start to question whether all of this conflict is actually worth the costs. It's a moment of dizzying disorientation where people have to decide whether they're going to stay in high conflict or do something radically different. I followed Curtis Toller, who was a fairly high-ranking gang leader in Chicago for many years. He was in a long-standing vendetta with a rival gang for lots of reasons that were very understandable from a long history of violence. But there was this moment when he saw his son graduating from 8th grade. And for a variety of reasons, which I explained in the book, all of a sudden he found himself just silently weeping, which is not something Curtis typically did in public or in private. But all of a sudden he had this moment where he started to really question existentially whether this conflict was still worth it. And this moment's really important because a lot of people hit a saturation point, but they have nowhere to go. No one is welcoming them out of the conflict because at this point they've become so dangerous or so toxic that nobody wants anything to do with them outside of the conflict itself. In Curtis's case, thank God, he had somewhere to go. He literally was able to move across town so people in his organization couldn't find him so easily. He had a priest in his neighborhood who welcomed him back, who gave him a role to play in a new basketball league that was forming between rival gangs to try to reduce the violence in Chicago. And he had his